Hi, I am a volunteer at the new LeMay America's Car Museum downtown. First thing, how many of you have been there? Oh, forget it, then we don't need to talk about it. No, it's been a lot of fun. A little bit of background, Harold LeMay started as a garbage collector in 1942. He bought one route with a pickup truck and went around and started collecting garbage. As we call it, refuse today. And I had an opportunity to present a talk on Harold. And while I had met him a couple of times, I didn't know that much about him. So I started talking to people that worked with him, that knew him and everything. And I talked to two fellows that went to work with him in 1964. Everybody thinks that Harold amassed so many cars that he must have been a millionaire all the way along. Well, by 1964, when these two fellows joined the company, they only had 9 trucks. The company was sold about a year and a half ago. They had 945 employees when the company was sold. You'll still see the LeMay name out there, but it's owned by Waste Connections now. But Harold started collecting cars, a little bit into the 60s, but then he got going really good. And then in the mid-80s, he went to an auction of Bill Harrah's collection, Harrah's Automobile. Harrah didn't own the cars. His company, which at that time was, oh goodness, what was it now? Holiday Inn. Harrah's Corporation owned all the cars. So when Bill Harrah passed away, most of them went up to auction. And Harold LeMay said, gosh, I don't want to break this collection up. I want it to stay. So he started a nonprofit in about 1996 to preserve the collection. They hired Dave Madera, who many of you have met, and Dave started the fundraising. And it culminated last June with the opening of the new LeMay Museum. Unfortunately, the economy tanked and went into a deep recession. So what you see out there now across from the Tacoma Dome is actually phase 2. Phase 1 was going to be a very large tower of power holding somewhere between 550, 850 cars. And phase 2 was going to be a long, skinny building with one ramp. When the economy tanked, they decided to widen it and lengthen it. So right now we have 165,000 square feet on 4 floors with 6 ramps out there. It is the largest square footage automobile museum in the United States. It's 3rd largest in the world. And we've been trying to figure out which are the largest, but I understand the Mercedes and the Volkswagen are the 2 largest in the world. We're rather unique in that this museum is set up more like an art museum. You can get around the cars and see them, but down below, on the 3 floors below the top floor, they're set up like a garage, just bang, 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 bang. And that's basically what Harold LeMay had done. In fact, if you go out to the LeMay family collection, which is out off of 152nd and Pacific, the family collection is open 6 days a week. One of the buildings is actually cubbyholed, where the cars are stacked 2 and 3 high, because that's the way Harold stored some of them. The family donated 975 cars plus $15 million to get this museum started here. The city of Tacoma donated the land with a lot of trepidation. The previous city manager didn't want to donate the land. Harold was still alive at that time, and they got rather argumentative, and Harold says, okay, Seattle wants us, we'll just take it up there. All of a sudden, the city council managed to persevere and donated the land out at the Tacoma Dome. Unfortunately, it did destroy about 2/3 of the parking on the one side. When the museum opened last June, we had 3 different parties going on. We got a visit from Jay Leno that evening, and there have been a lot of parties still going on. We have a banquet room that will hold about 225 people. We have at least 3 high school proms in the next month or so. We have 200 volunteers like myself right now, and we do everything from Walmart greeters at the door to being car monitors, don't touch the car, and also docent. We do a few docent-led tours. We don't have enough trained docents to have regular docent tours every day. We hope to be able to do that sometime in the future. The LeMay family still controls about 1,500 to 1,800 cars. Doug LeMay, the son, actually bought back 100 cars that this museum actually sold at auction to raise funds during the building. Doug wanted them, of course, for sentimental reasons. But last year, 2012, Doug LeMay bought 18 new cars, or 18 additional cars. So it's still going on. There's 500 cars out of the LeMay family collection at Marymount. There's about 300 cars over at the house, which is right behind Brookdale Lumber on Pacific Avenue. And in some 7 warehouses throughout Pierce County, there's additional cars. So in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 1,800 cars that the LeMay family still owns, and that's not including the cars here. Here we have about 350 cars on display. We have a warehouse in Fife, so many of the cars that have been donated are still in the warehouse. We're bringing those in. We're a little unusual at a car museum in that the center aisles are part of the collection, but we have 6 ramps there, and those ramps are generally cars that are on loan from other individuals. So unless you know Mr. Microsoft and you're invited over to his garage, you would never see these cars. So quickly going through the museum for you, the top floor is where you enter. That's the 4th floor, and that is a blend of cars that Harold and Nancy LeMay donated to the museum and cars that the LeMay family have loaned to the museum. So the entire top floor are LeMay cars. As you go down the first ramp, it's the custom bodied automobiles, your limousines, your one-off cars. You could buy a Model T or a Model A for maybe $700, but these people would buy a chassis for $8,000 to $12,000, and then they put another $6,000 to $8,000 into a custom body. Those are the real fancy cars that you see on that first ramp. The second ramp down is the Bulgari collection. You ladies with Bulgari jewelry, Bulgari cosmetics. Mr. Bulgari loves American cars. He doesn't really collect the Rolls Royces and the Packards and everything. He loves Buicks, and he loves that shape of the Buicks. And he has 2 collections, one in Rome and one in Allentown, Pennsylvania. He brought 12 cars out to this museum for the grand opening, and they're still here. However, one of them is going to stay here forever, and that's a Packard in the middle that he donated to this museum. One of the Buicks that he had there just left last Friday is going to China for a display over there. And so he brought in some additional cars, so there's been a change on that ramp. The bottom ramp I like to call the Toys for Boys ramp. It's all Ferraris. And there's been a change out in the last couple of months. People have brought their Ferraris in. Other people have taken them out to drive. In this weather, I don't know why. On the other side, we have alternative energy cars, electric cars from the early 1900s. We have current electric cars, the Volt. We also have 2 solar cars, one from Western Washington University and one from the University of Michigan. The car from the University of Michigan won the race from Austin, Texas up to Calgary, Alberta. No gas, just sun. But if you're ever claustrophobic, you take a look at those two solar cars, you would have to be the tiniest little person ever to get in there and not be claustrophobic, I'll tell you. The next ramp up on the west side is the Indianapolis 500 race cars. 3 of those cars are locally owned by the Camaranos. There's one other that's locally owned. Those cars will be leaving us in the near future, and my understanding is that by June there will be a display of NASCARs on that ramp. The upper ramp is the British invasion, British cars of the 50s and 60s. And those have changed over. We've gotten more donations. Since we've opened, we've had about 12 or 15 donations. A family from Idaho donated a nice 1929 Model A, and they also donated a MGTD that's on the ramp there. Recently, we had a very unusual car donated to the museum, and it's called Ferrambo. It's a Ferrari engine in a Rambler station wagon. Now, why in God's name, why anybody would ever do that? You know, the whole idea, the laughter. You can't believe this car. It won the top award called the Riddler Award for customized cars. It's sitting on a fantastic base with mirrors underneath it and everything. But if you've ever wondered what a Ferrari engine looked like, the back door of this Ferrambo is open. You can look in and see the entire driveline from a Ferrari in there. But the paint, you'd swear you could reach right in. It's that deep. You'd love to have that paint on your modern car. It's a weird look or idea, but we also have, I believe it's a 1957 Buick Wildcat that with a fiberglass body that is being donated to the museum. It's not here yet, but it was going to be not really competing, but supplementing the Corvette back in the 50s. That's a one-off body. We have a very rare truck that was recently donated, a 1922 Olympus made right here in Tacoma by Olympus Trucking Company. And we believe it is the only Olympus truck known to exist yet. We are changing out cars on a weekly basis, not weekly, maybe monthly. We'll be changing out the one ramp, like I say, here in the next month or so. But we're having a lot of fun. We could use more volunteers for all kinds of things. We have all kinds of events going on, and like I say, parties and everything. It's been a lot of fun. You don't have to be a car nut. I gave a private tour to a group of folks from the YMCA Saturday morning, and there was a second tour there, and our docent didn't show up. So there was a young lady that was watching the cars as a monitor, and I asked her if she'd be willing to run a tour. I've never done one. But Bob, I'll do it for you since you asked so nicely. And she did it for an hour or so until the docents showed up who thought the tour started at 11, not 10. But she did a great job, and we have a lot of fun out there. Any questions anybody has? Bob?
I get the Cruising magazine, and when I got the magazine, I opened it up and was going through looking at all the cars, and I came across one in 1936, the Soda Airflow.
Yes.
So I haven't seen one of those for a long time. So I read on the bottom, lo and behold, it said Ron Goebel from Bend, Oregon.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Is Mike here? Yeah. From it. Oh. So Mike got me his address. So I sent him a card, and I just got this card in the mail, and that's the picture of his car. Besides that, he owns a 1955 Packard Patrician, and he also has a Jag, too. It wasn't in the magazine, but he wrote a little note. So I got his email, and he wants to keep in contact, so I will.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, there's a collector. He had 3 cars. Harold LeMay, when he passed away, had 3,500 automobiles. Now, that is a hobby that got out of whack. It's sort of like my wife and her roses. But